2000 Tundra rear proportioning valve. Never heard of such a thing, but on this thing finally went out on my truck. I'm going to show you, after I show you a little bit of this first segment, I will show you how to try to take that apart and rebuild it, but that didn't work out for me. So basically, you need some tools, some safety glasses, it's brake fluid, you're going to have a mess, so you're going to need some gloves, tool set. This is the part number I bought. It was about $100 from China, Craigslist, or you can get the same one from China here, US. It's about $260 from the dealer. I think it was about $150. A couple other sites, but this was BS boosters off of eBay, so you can order one. Be careful, there's two of these. One's for the Tundra, one's for the Lexus, for the car. So that's what I believe I bought, BS 527, but be careful, I don't know if that's what, I'm not looking at my eBay purchase. So basically you need some tools, tool set. You're going to need a drip bucket. Try to catch some fluid. When you crack them lines, fluid goes everywhere. Wear some safety glasses. You don't want brake fluid in your eyes. You don't want to touch it too much on your skin, so just go to Harbor Freight, buy a box of gloves. It's $10, but there's a whole bunch of gloves in there. You can use them for everything. So now I'm going to skip forward. I'm not going to show you taking all this stuff apart because I'll have it in the other clips. And you can watch all that or just skip to the end of this video and see the final installation of that part. This is a 2000 Tundra load proportioning valve, load assembly proportioning valve. And basically, the more weight you put on your truck, this thing moves the lever in the bottom of the proportioning valve, and that's leaking. I've already loosened up some of the wires, some of the brake lines coming to it, and it's starting to drip pretty good. But I'm going to pull that off and see if I can rebuild it. This is $200. I think I found one for like $165 plus shipping. So I'm going to take it apart. I got to take it off anyways. We'll see if we can clean it up and rebuild that, and we'll show a picture of that here in a second, see if we can rebuild it and put it back. Okay, I pulled those brake lines off, and I took these two bolts off, and it's still trapped in there. Behind this thing, there is a C-clip and or 3 bolts. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to pull these 3 bolts off and drop it down with the bracket. That's going to be my plan. Okay, I've never heard of any of these, but it looks like now this, I have to take off this spring clip, and this is loose. It's got a C-clip on the back, so you might have to take that out. This came out, but it was boxed in there, the bolts. So I am going to probably remove both. Right now I'm just going to remove this, because then that will free up this, and we'll see if we can rebuild this little proportioning valve. That's all you're going to get for your $200 is this little piece, so that's pretty expensive for one little component there. Okay, got a little C-clip that has to come off with the pliers there, and then take this part and get some pipe wrenches or a vise. Basically, I just used 2 big pipe wrenches, put one of them right here to hold it, and one on the end, and just got that loose and took this off. So I have the 2 plastic piece, and I've already broke this piece. It had a more of a like an outside seal, and that already came off, but there's a bunch of seals in here. Let me get it open and I'll show you. Okay, that's the body, some sort of pin, another piece of the body, seal, plastic piece, C-clip, and basically this right here was all full of rust, and I think the rust is getting into the seal, which this is kind of wore out, but it doesn't look that bad. It just needed to be cleaned. So that's going to be a test bed. If this doesn't work, me cleaning it and putting it back together will know for you not to waste your time. Just pay the $200, $150, $60, buy a new one and put it in. But I wanted to clean this one, and definitely when I took it apart, it was all full of rust and brake fluid, and we're just going to use brake clean. We're going to clean it all up, reassemble it, and see if it works. And if it works, great. Again, this brakes, so kind of do it at your own risk. I wouldn't want to go on the freeway and try to slam on your brakes until you know it really works. But we're going to test this one and see if it'll stop leaking. Okay, you can see the little rust particles down in the center in there, and I'm pretty sure that that's what's hanging that up. And I did find that this piece comes out of that. It fits in there like that. So you got to get that. Just slips right out. Pulls, jiggle it out. And we'll clean up all these seals. None of them look broke. I think they just had rust in them. Okay, I took some steel wool and I cleaned up the surfaces. I cleaned up that real good. Basically, there's a gasket in here. This would also clean that with steel wool really well. I think that's where all the rust was coming from. This is the bottom outside. And there's an O-ring in there. And that O-ring that's in there glides on that silver shiny spot. And that's why it's leaking. The rust got in there and allowed it to leak. And this is the outer boot, which also seals about right there. And basically we got to lube this up with some brake fluid. Put brake fluid on all the little gaskets. And then we'll reassemble it. And basically I just cleaned everything with some brake fluid, and clean the spring inside, clean the outer piece. We'll have to clean the little C-clamp, but basically that's kind of all the parts and pieces. I got them out of order here, but I cleaned inside of there. I basically just sprayed brake fluid in there, let it evaporate, took a little rag, wiped it out. Actually, I have a compressor, but I just put the stick and use it as a cleaning tool to clean up inside there. But I did clean all of this. It's not coming into focus, but I steel wooled that. There was a whole lot of rust on this end. And my other question is that broke? It doesn't look real good. It's been in there for 13 years. It's a 2000 Toyota Tundra. And, you know, is that damaged, or is that just the way it's supposed to look after 13 years of use? But let's put it back together. We're going to put brake fluid on these gaskets, all the seals, all these little seals. We're going to put brake fluid up inside here because it is a proportioning valve, and brake fluid is up in there, and that's what lubes everything, is the seals. Okay, the hardest part about putting this all back together was the little C-clip, and basically you got to make sure that it's really in there, because you can get that centered, but you need to use the tool and make sure that that's really clipped up under that ledge really good. So now we're going to install it. Oh, I still haven't tightened this down with the pipe wrench, but I'll do that right now. Here's a picture of the vice grips. I'm putting it on that flat edge and just grabbing the tip of that and basically pulling really hard and sealing that back up. So basically you can do this without a vise. It's kind of hard. You got to have a couple pipe wrenches. You basically got to have some pliers to get that C-ring off. And then I think it was number 11 metric to get all the brake lines off. Now that little pin's not sticking down very much, so the travel on that is very minute. Just, I don't even know how it really works. That bar pushes up on that, or yeah, it pushes up on it, but man, that's just not much travel. Okay, I've noticed a couple things here. That has to line up. The plastic piece in the center has to line up. Also, it's 3 points of pivot back here. So you have to loosen these 2 front bolts and kind of, you can see on mine it's still not perfect. The other thing was this blue thing was pointed the wrong way, so I just took a wrench and put it in there and turned it so it was facing. It was facing this way. I stuck it in there and turned it so it's facing straight. Now, when this thing before it was all rusty, I couldn't move it, but since it's fairly fresh and clean, I was able just to spin it around. And we put the bracket on there. It's easier to do down here. And basically, we got a couple washers to go on the boot and a couple screws to attach. There's that piece that fell out, which is a seal. It didn't fall out, it just tore. It's just a seal for the outer surface. It wasn't really the inner seal. And basically, we got a couple bolts here. This is for that, for the cross member, and this is to mount it to the frame, these 3. So we're going to mount it to the frame, and we'll put the center on, and then we'll put some brake fluid, and we'll test it. Okay, this is a picture of it reinstalled. You put these 3 bolts in. I did reverse. I put that one in first, put that one in second, put that one in third. And now, before I put this bracket, this bar back on here, I'm going to go ahead and get a helper. This is your bleeder screw, so I'm going to get a helper rubber hose and run a hose down into my little catch bucket down here and bleed that. I think it would be very hard to bleed by yourself because you have to press in the brakes and close this, let go of the brakes, open it, press the brakes, close it, and it's a system of opening and closing to get the air out of those lines. So that's what we're going to do next. If it leaks, then we won't have to take this stuff back apart, and I'll order. If it leaks, I'm just going to leave it together. I'm going to order the part, and then we'll take this back apart and put the new one in and put it back together, and I'll show you that if we got to. Press in, let out, press in, press out, pump it a few times. Okay, just press in and hold it. The thing's still getting wet, so it's still leaking, so I don't think I would trust it, but okay, that shaft, that shiny spot, that road on that seal is still leaking, and that's actually still dripping right there. So it kind of fixed it, but I would not trust it. I do a lot of Houston driving, speeds to 70, and I'd hate for that to blow out when you need that to seal. And it looks like, you know, when you're pressing the brakes, you could see it coming out and then going back in, going out and going back in. So this must just offer resistance to not let it go down as far. I don't really understand it, but anyway, my recommendation is just to get a new one, put it on there, because if that seal's bad, you would have to find a way to make that seal better. And I don't know how to do that. You'd have to buy a new seal, and they just don't sell the seals separately that I know of. So there you have it. We're going to put the new one on. That's going to be my, we'll go ahead and get the video and at least show you the new one before we see the difference. And then that'll be it. 2000 Tundra brake proportioning valve. This is the new one, finished, but I wanted to make a note that every time in this video I said I was done with this project, I really wasn't. So you might want to watch clear to the end. This little boot here took me probably 30 minutes to push that up on there. If I would have had a better plan, I would have put it on there. But again, I wanted to see if it was leaking when I bled the brakes, and it wasn't leaking when it's finished. But this is the final picture of it complete in here. And I was also not trying to Superman tighten these, and one of these was seeping, so I tightened it up a little bit. But Hope you enjoy this video. This is going to move on to the old one and taking it off, rebuilding it, so you can try to either rebuild it or put on a new one. So thank you. This time I knew what I was looking for, so I loosened that clip from the back. I reached back down there and gently loosened that. Used number 10s to loosen those. This is a double bolt, so you can loosen those with the number 12 without taking that apart. So this time I'm not having to take this bracket loose. I just loosen those. That's trapped in there, but it'll slide out. Push the plastic piece off the clip and loosen these with the number 10, and then we'll go in reverse order. Okay, definitely wear you some safety glasses, because when you break them lines loose, all that fluid just drips out everywhere. And I'm taking another video because I don't know if you can see that. That top hole will not let me take that out of there because it's too low. So I'm going to have to take this bracket off again. So if you see that that's a problem, learn from my mistake before you unhook all these lines. Maybe you could do it without losing every bit of brake fluid out of your master cylinder. But now I'm going to have to loosen those 3 bolts, pull the whole bracket off, take the thing off, put it on, and put it back together. So that's what I'm going to do next. Alright, this is down on the ground. Now you can take this piece off. You can slide that thing down and pull it out just like magic. I got my second one right here. You just do the same thing, reverse, pull that down, put in your bolts. Now that's trapped in there just like the other one, just enough where you can't get the dang thing out. Go ahead and put your plastic clip back on it. Oh, go ahead and put your plastic clip and your bolts. Why not? Plastic clip. I'm going to have to put the camera down and go ahead and put those bolts in there. You might as well. And put the little nuts and washers back on. And then we'll hang the bracket with the 3 bolts. And everything was a 13, 12, and a 10 socket. And that's all you need. And I will move on to the end to show you putting it back in there and bleeding them. Okay, no leaks this time, so it looks pretty good. We got all of them bled, so now we're going to hook this little contraption back on. I don't really get it, but I'm going to put all those pieces back together. A couple washers, a couple grommet to hold that rubber boot, and there you have it. I don't know what else to show. This was a pretty tough job just because I had to do it so many times. But if you know you don't want to rebuild that, just buy a new one and stick it in there. Take you a lot less time. Probably take you an hour, maybe 2. You're going to need a second person to help you bleed the brakes. And that's what you got. Thanks for watching. I encourage you to do your own video of the things you're doing and share them with other people so it'll make it easier for all of us to work on stuff. Thank you. Okay, every time I think something's going to be easy, it's not. Probably should have put this back on there while that was off, because I've tried for 30 minutes to get this damn thing back on here using 2 hands to pull that boot, but it's too close. So what I think I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to loosen these 2 screws, put this rubber boot piece on there, and then snug it back up, because I can't pull it past there to get that boot and that lock through that little gap. I just can't do it with 2 hands and the spare tire in the way. Left-handed, turn around, every which way. I want to go back, loosen these 2 bolts, take that spring and clip it around there. And then once I get that unit together, then I'll slide that up and put that bolt. But you're going to have to put that boot on there. But the reason why I didn't want to put the boot on there, I wanted to make sure that that wasn't leaking while I pressured it up. But anyway, I'm going to put a little note in front of this to watch the whole video or parts and pieces, because every time I say I'm done, and there you have it, nah, it's not done. I run into another problem. Okay, so I'm going to take that apart, and if I have any other problems, I'll probably show one more picture. Alright, I was able to get this boot on there, but you got to hold this contraption together, pull it this way as hard as you can, slide the boot up, and get that over there, and then you're going to have to figure out how to get that clip back on there, because I don't have the clip on there. But I think you can do it without loosening those two bolts, because I think I got it where I can clip that on there. ...2000 Tundra brake proportioning valve. This is the new one, finished, but I wanted to make a note that every time in this video I said I was done with this project, I really wasn't. So you might want to watch clear to the end. This little boot here took me probably 30 minutes to push that up on there. If I would have had a better plan, I would have put it on there. But again, I wanted to see if it was leaking when I bled the brakes, and it wasn't leaking when it's finished. But this is the final picture of it complete in here. And I was also not trying to Superman tighten these, and one of these was seeping, so I tightened it up a little bit. But hope you enjoy this video. This is going to move on to the old one, and taking it off, rebuilding it, so you can try to either rebuild it or put on a new one. So thank you.